On October 4th, 2024, Turkey faced a harrowing tragedy that shook the nation and left a trail of heartbreak and outrage. The brutal murders of two young women, Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner, by a deeply disturbed 19-year-old man named Semih Çelik exposed the grim reality of unchecked mental health issues, toxic ideologies, and systemic failures. This gruesome crime raised critical questions about societal neglect and its repercussions. Semih Çelik was not a stranger to those around him, yet his troubled mind was largely concealed behind a facade of religious devotion and isolation. Living in the Eyüp Sultan district of Istanbul with his parents and older sister, Semih was described by his father as deeply pious, often more disciplined in his religious practices than even his elders. However, this outward religiosity masked a solitary life filled with internal turmoil. Semih's neighbors and acquaintances painted a picture of a withdrawn individual who had no significant friendships or connections. Beneath his reserved exterior, an unhealthy fixation on Ikbal Uzuner, a childhood acquaintance, hinted at the deeper psychological issues that would eventually culminate in unimaginable violence. This obsession, combined with his secretive behavior, served as warning signs of a mind descending into darkness. Semih's journey toward isolation began in his early teenage years. Once seen as a promising student with a talent for information technology, his parents supported his interests by purchasing him a computer. However, instead of using this tool to thrive, Semih retreated into his own world, spending countless hours alone online. His secrecy about his activities further worried his father, who suspected something troubling was unfolding. In March 2022, his fixation on Ikbal escalated dangerously. The pair reportedly plotted a joint suicide, a devastating plan that was intercepted in time thanks to Ikbal's mother. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Semih's father sought psychological help for him, leading to a brief evaluation and the prescription of medication. Yet, Semih refused to follow through with the treatment. Meanwhile, Ikbal's family acted decisively, moving her to a different school and arranging therapy to help her regain stability. While these efforts seemed to benefit Ikbal, Semih's struggles continued. He abandoned his studies in information technology, choosing instead to work as a butcher. Although this career change appeared to provide him with routine, the underlying issues simmered, waiting to erupt. In 2023, Semih entered a relationship with a 19-year-old university student, Aysenur Halil. To outsiders, this appeared to be a turning point, a sign that Semih might have moved on from his past obsession. However, the relationship was far from a sign of recovery. Behind closed doors, Semih grappled with intense feelings of emptiness and despair, manifesting in disturbing ways. His creative expressions became a window into his deteriorating mental state. Semih began producing chilling drawings and writings, depicting grotesque scenes of violence, demons, and dismemberment. He recorded ominous videos expressing his desire to end his own life, but suggested he would not die alone. These disturbing signs were overlooked or misunderstood, paving the way for tragedy. We'll talk about the motives behind Semih's actions and examine the crime in detail. It all starts with a video he recorded a year ago, addressing his ex-girlfriend, Ikbal Uzuner. Ikbal, I wanted to say goodbye to you specifically in the end. I'm dying. I regret everything you've gone through because of me. I'm very sorry for this, but for me, everything was beautiful. There's no need to be afraid anymore. This topic is completely closed. I hope you live normally and die peacefully, but there's something I want to tell you. Yesterday, the day I saw you, I came to kill you. When I leave this life, I want to take a life, and it was more valuable to me that this person was you. To take your heart, your eyes. You know these things. I waited an hour in front of the building. I follow you. If you have been living your days normally, you would be dead, but God helped you so much. It's good that something like that didn't happen. I backed out. If I had killed you, will have created my own hell in the afterlife. You wouldn't leave me in peace as a human being with living mind. That's why I'm leaving without hurting anyone. Share with me in the comments what you think. The events of October 4th, 2024 marked the culmination of Semih's descent into darkness. That day, Semih invited Aysenur to his family home, while his parents were away visiting his sister. In a horrifying act of violence, Semih murdered Aysenur, mutilating her body in a way that reflected his deeply disturbed psyche. Afterward, he contacted the police to confess his crime and fled the scene. His rampage, however, was not over. Semih lured Ikbal to Istanbul's historic city walls under the pretense of reconciliation. Once there, he attacked her with chilling brutality, decapitating her in a barbaric act. Leaving her lifeless body near the ancient walls, Semih ended his own life by hanging himself. The sequence of events was a stark reminder of the catastrophic consequences of unchecked mental health issues and toxic ideologies. Investigators uncovered a trove of evidence at Semih's home that shed light on his troubled mind. His notebooks contained violent and nihilistic imagery, along with writings reflecting his fascination with chaos, death, and persuasion. Authorities also examined his online activities, revealing ties to the incel, involuntary celibate community, a subculture notorious for its misogynistic and violent rhetoric. Although Semih had been in relationships, his connection to the incel movement raised concerns about the impact of such toxic communities on vulnerable individuals. The glorification of violence and disdain for women in these circles seemed to have fueled Semih's distorted worldview, contributing to his heinous actions. The murders of Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner ignited widespread protests across Turkey. Thousands took to the streets, demanding justice and systemic reforms to address the pervasive violence against women. Activists highlighted the government's failure to protect women, emphasizing that femicide and domestic abuse remain deeply entrenched issues in Turkish society. The tragedy also reignited debates surrounding Turkey's 2021 withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention, an international treaty aimed at combating violence against women. Critics argued that the withdrawal signaled a lack of commitment to addressing gender-based violence, leaving women more vulnerable. Vigils were held nationwide to honor the victims, with slogans like, "We stand for all women who cannot speak for themselves," echoing through the streets. The murders became a rallying cry for change, underscoring the urgent need to confront systemic neglect and societal apathy. The role of online radicalization in Semih's dissent cannot be overlooked. The incel community, known for its promotion of misogyny and violence, thrives on platforms that allow such toxic ideologies to flourish unchecked. Semih's engagement with this subculture highlighted the dangers of these online echo chambers. In response, Turkish authorities banned Discord, one of the platforms where incel ideologies are often propagated, and arrested individuals involved in promoting such content. However, these measures were criticized as reactive rather than proactive, failing to address the root causes of radicalization. Semih's case revealed critical gaps in Turkey's mental health system. Despite early warning signs, his struggles were not adequately addressed. The lack of sustained mental health care and support for young people like Semih need for robust interventions. Moreover, the societal stigma surrounding mental health often prevents individuals from seeking help. This tragedy highlighted the importance of breaking these barriers and ensuring accessible, long-term mental health resources. The murder of Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner were not isolated incidents, but rather a symptom of deeper societal issues. Share with me in the comments what you think. They expose the lethal combination of untreated mental health problems, toxic ideologies, and systemic neglect. As Turkey mourned the loss of 2 young lives, the tragedy became a catalyst for conversations about reform. To prevent such horrors in the future, Turkey must prioritize mental health care, combat online radicalization, and strengthen protections for women. The deaths of Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner will serve as a grim reminder of the urgent need for vigilance, compassion, and systemic change to ensure that their suffering was not in vain. This horrific incident underscores not only the fragile state of an individual's mind, but also exposes deep-rooted societal challenges, particularly those concerning violence against women and mental health awareness. The deaths of Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner, a grim reminder of the urgent need to address systemic issues, foster compassion, and implement preventive measures. This article seeks to unravel the layers of this tragedy, exploring the psychological, social, and cultural dimensions to draw lessons and inspire change. The events of that fateful day unfolded with chilling precision, leaving a trail of devastation. Semi Selek, described by acquaintances as a troubled, yet quiet individual, carried out his deadly actions in what appears to have been a premeditated act of violence. According to reports, Semi encountered Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner, circumstances that remain unclear but suggest a personal or social connection. The details of their interactions reveal a troubling narrative of escalating tensions, culminating in an unthinkable act of violence. Semi attacked both women, fatally injuring them before turning his weapon on himself. Witnesses described the scene as harrowing, with emergency responders and law enforcement arriving too late to prevent the loss of life. The aftermath left families shattered and a community reeling from the sheer brutality of the crime. Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner were more than just names in the headlines. They were daughters, friends, and individuals with dreams and aspirations. Their stories highlight the profound loss felt by their families and community. Aysenur Halil, a bright, compassionate young woman, known for her dedication to her studies and her close-knit circle of friends. She aspired to make a difference in her community, often volunteering for local initiatives aimed at empowering women. And Ikbal Uzuner, equally driven, Ikbal had a passion for education and hoped to become a teacher. Her kind nature and infectious optimism left a lasting impression on those who knew her. Their untimely deaths robbed the world of two promising lives and underscored the pervasive threat of gender-based violence. Testimonials from their loved ones paint a poignant picture of their legacies and the void their loss has created. The media response to the incident was swift and polarized. National news outlets ran headlines such as "Youth Violence Strikes Again" and "Two Promising Lives Cut Short by a Troubled Mind." However, the tone of coverage varied widely. Many outlets focused on honoring Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner, emphasizing their aspirations and the senselessness of their deaths. Some media narratives sensationalized Semi's mental health struggles, perpetuating harmful stereotypes about mental illness being inherently linked to violence. Social media also played a significant role. The hashtags #Justice for Aysenur and Ikbal and #Endfemicide trended on Twitter for days, sparking debates about gender-based violence and mental health resources in Turkey. Viral post read, "Aysenur Halil and Ikbal Uzuner deserved a future, not headlines. How many more women must we lose before real change happens?" However, not all discussions were constructive. Some users used the incident to spread misinformation, further complicating an already sensitive situation. The tragic deaths of Aysenur, Ikbal, and Semi offer sobering lessons for society. Public education campaigns and increased funding for mental health services are crucial. Schools, in particular, should integrate mental health awareness into their curricula. The cultural backdrop of gender inequality plays a significant role in perpetuating violence against women. Grassroots movements must address these deep-seated attitudes. Laws protecting women from violence must be enforced more stringently, with harsher penalties for perpetrators.